Welcome back. This is the second part in a tutorial on how to write chords, especially if you have no theory knowledge whatsoever. You don't know music theory, you don't know chords, keys, you don't know sharps or flats, or maybe major and minor chords are alien things to you. And this guide is hopefully going to show you how to write a chord sequence and cut some corners without having to spend years studying all of that kind of stuff. In the first video, I showed you this little handout that we've been working with that's available on my website for free. The link is in the description below, and it's called the Chord Encyclopedia. And what it was is it just showed you all the keys and chords that you could use in a particular key. So we chose C minor. We wrote our chord sequence of C minor, E flat, F, and it sounded pretty good. And what the aim of this second part of the video is to show you how to get this chord sequence and make it sound really interesting and show you some tricks and tips. Now this works even if you've not started from the first half of this video. This just works with any chord sequence. This is how to make chords sound more interesting. The first stage of making this sound a little bit more interesting, because at the moment it looks like what it is, which is we've written in 3 chords in their most simple position and put them back to back. The first thing we can do to make this chord sequence sound interesting is we can spread some of these notes out. The easiest way to do that is to just take one of the notes, say this E flat here, and move it to a different E flat. So I'm going to move it to this E flat here. Now, even though I spread this out and it's not how it looked before, this is still the chord of C minor. It still has a C in it, it still has an E flat in it, and it still has a G in it, which is what makes it C minor. Even if I spread them out or rearrange them, it's still the chord of C minor. If I move this E flat down to this E flat down here, still the chord of C minor. All you need to make sure is that they are still the same notes. You can't move this note to like a different note here or something. So C, E flat and G. So this first chord is just a little bit more spread out. In fact, I could even move that bottom one. And let's do it with the other two as well. So take this middle note here, move it up an octave, this middle note, move it up an octave, and these bottom 2 notes, we're going to move these down an octave. It just sounds like a little bit more interesting than it did before. So that's the first thing, you can rearrange the notes. The second thing you can do is you can duplicate some of the notes. What that means is that you can take any of these notes here and you can add in a duplicate. So say this bottom note here, C. What I could do is I could add in another C, say up here. And it's still the chord of C minor because it's got C, an E flat and a G in there. And the second chord, I'm going to add a E flat in there. And this last chord, I'm going to double up this note, which is another C. It's starting to sound really full and interesting now. So the first one was move the notes around. Second one is duplicating any of the notes. The third one is where you start to get really interesting things happening. And it is by using some of these chord extensions that I mentioned in the first video. What these chord extensions are, so say this first chord of C minor, we've written in these 3 red notes here. They're the important ones. If we don't have those 3 notes, it's not the chord of C minor. What these 2 green ones are, they are optional extras. This is the 7th, this is the 9th. If that means absolutely nothing to you, don't worry about it. You don't need to know where they come from. You just need to know that they work. And what you can do is you can choose the bottom one or the top one or both or have neither in your chord sequence. So for the sake of this first one, C minor, I'm going to choose the bottom green note here, which is a B flat. I'm going to add it into my C minor chord. So we'll go back to my chord sequence. Oops. And C minor is the first chord here. So all I do is I find a B flat somewhere, anywhere, this one in the middle, and I'm going to put in a B flat there. The second chord, E flat, I'm going to choose the top interesting note here, which is an F, which is there. So I'm going to add this F in. And the last one, I'm going to get really interesting. So the F minor, I'm going to add both notes in. So this first one is an E flat, and the second one is a G. So let's find an E flat here, and the other one is a G, which is there. Just having a look at it now, I'm going to warn you, is that here, when you see notes that look like this, that are all very close together, even though they work and they're on the sheet, sometimes they can sound a little bit close together. Sometimes they sound great, and I have no idea what it's going to sound like until I press play here. But if it sounds a little bit close and a bit clustered together, you can just go back to the drawing board and get rid of that extra note and try something different. So this is our chord sequence now with the extra green notes. Yeah, and if we kind of listen to it back to back with what we started off originally. You can see how this chord sequence here just sounds really interesting and a lot better than what we started off here. So first thing, rearrange the notes. Second thing, duplicate the notes. Third thing, add in those extra chord extensions. The fourth thing is layer up your synths. There's two ways of doing this. I could actually layer up another pad on top of this one to make it sound really interesting. But the more interesting option I'm going to go with is you can stick this chord sequence and just copy it directly into a pad that, a synth that has an arpeggiator on it. And what an arpeggiator does is, instead of playing all of these notes at the same time, it's going to play them in a sequence, and it's going to break them up, and it's going to sound really interesting. I've prepared one here. It's just an Alchemy, which is one of the bog standard synths that you get in Logic. It's very cool though, for kind of standard software. So it's just an arpeggiated, but if you kind of have a look around in different software, if you're on a different platform, you're going to find some arpeggiated synths. So let's just have a listen to how this chord sequence sounds with this arpeggiator on the go. And what you can do is you can duplicate that on different arpeggiators. So I've got another one down here that arpeggiates it. And if we play those three all together, that's just one chord sequence that I've copied out into three different synths. Then the computer's going to do loads of the work for me. Stick my bass line in there and my drums. And what you can do with this as well is it's really, really easy to arrange your track once you've got these things on the go. What you can do is you can, let's just duplicate these here. What you can do is you might want to start off with it's a really easy way of orchestrating your tracks. You might want to start off with just the synth that we started off with, and then one of these arpeggiators comes in, another one comes in here, and without even really making an effort, you've kind of created this really nice little arrangement to start off with. last thing I'd say is you just need to be a little bit wary when you're using these arpeggiators. I'm going to choose this top synth here, which I've not showed you yet. This one just sounds a little bit too much when you put the arpeggiator on with these long notes. So what I wanted when I added this into my mix is I just wanted just the start of each of these phrases. So what you can do is you can take your chords, you can shorten them down. I'm going to take this one and make this a little bit shorter, and take this one and make it a little bit shorter. So it gives you a little bit of space in this chord sequence now. So if I add this on top of here now, it doesn't sound quite as cluttered as it would have done if it had just had everything on the go at the same time. And the other thing you can do is if you've got several arpeggiators on the go, is you can actually pan them in the different ears on different sides. And that's it basically. So hopefully you should, by watching these two videos, have got the idea about how to write a chord progression, how this works in terms of using chords and creating a little chord sequence in a key. You should be able to write these in. You should be able to spread these out, duplicate notes, add in any chord extensions, and hopefully, without having any musical theory knowledge, you should be able to get to this stage where you've actually written your own chord sequence and you're not relying on loops and samples anymore. I hope you enjoyed these two videos. If you want to see some more of these tutorials, I've done this kind of teaching for many years, so I'm going to try and roll out loads of the stuff that I've been using over the years. And there's more stuff on my website and the links below. So check back soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.